Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about one of the things that I think is funny that a lot of guys out there will say, but honestly it's us being in denial of reality. And I can fall in this category because the bench press is by a significant margin my weakest lift. I am dramatically better at the squat, the deadlift, and even the strict standing press than I am the bench press. I'm not proportionate. And accordingly, people like me, oftentimes, because of the lift we're not good at, that we're not built for, what do we say? Well, it's not really a valid test of strength. It's just leverages. Look, that's nonsense. That's a weak ass excuse, and we don't need to make weak ass excuses. Yes, those of us who have longer arms, like me, look at that. That's with a wide grip. We have longer arms. Will complain a lot of times, oh, the bench is not really a true test of strength, right? It's not valid. And it's just a fluff upper body bro lift anyways, right? Okay? Chill with that, because you know what? The guys who are phenomenal at the bench press who have short arms, they struggle with the deadlift. We have the advantage there. You know, because the same ones of us, think about it. Those of us who are good at deadlifting and not particularly good at the bench press, because technically if you guys pull up the charts for my age and weight, like the USPA or the IPL, technically my deadlift is elite for my age and weight, right? It's elite. My bench is terrible. We'll pull that well. It's just a leverage lift, and it doesn't really count. But isn't the deadlift a leverage lift? The deadlift is far more reliant on leverages and less reliant on muscle mass than the bench press is. Right? It is. So we sound pretty hypocritical if we say that stuff. And here's what I would say. It's time to stop making excuses. Yes, we're all going to be built to be better at some lifts than others. Okay? We have to accept that. Every human being on earth is going to have a leverage advantage on one lift versus another. That's normal. We accept it. It doesn't mean that any one of those lifts isn't a valid test of strength. Because what is it that we use to measure strength? Well, how is strength defined? The production of force against an external object. Okay, just because you have a leverage advantage or disadvantage in your body doesn't mean that the definition of strength gets to change. You have to produce that force against an external object. All right? Because if we didn't measure it that way, what would we be measuring? Hypertrophy. And now that's a tough one for people to swallow too. Hopefully people understand that the amount of force that you produce at the tendon, any given tendon in your body, because then let's remove all the levers. Let's just go straight to the tendon. How much force are we producing against that tendon when we contract maximally? You know what? It's almost 100% determined by your hypertrophy, the size of the muscle. More importantly, the size of the total sum of the muscle fibers involved. Hypertrophy is something like 99% correlated with the amount of force that you produce at the tendon. And I'm not saying there can't be some variation based upon muscle fiber distribution and all that. But actually, it's surprisingly less than you would think. Hypertrophy is by far and large, overwhelmingly more important than every other factor or variable put together. All of them combined, barely even are measurable when compared to hypertrophy. It's the one that matters. That's what determines how much force we produce at a tendon when we contract a muscle with 100% effort. As hard as we can. Okay? So if we weren't measuring it with these external weights, all we would need to know is how big you are. That's it. That's all that would matter. Now, different people produce force differently due to levers, moment arms, all their stabilizers, intramuscular coordination, how that tendon may be inserted. Some people can produce more force at a given point in their body with less muscle mass due to different advantages as far as insertions and all this stuff, right? But at the tendon itself, it's purely hypertrophy. So we have to look at it and say, okay, we have to give some and take some. We're going to win some, we're going to lose some. And it all balances out in the end. You know, you're stronger at one lift and weaker at another due to different levers. So why don't you just get stronger? And it's totally reasonable, because if we think about it, say, okay, if we have longer arms, we have to push the weight further. We have to have much, much bigger triceps. We got to have a lot more triceps, and it's harder to fill them out on that longer arm, and blah, 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 right? Right, that's a cop-out. I mean, like in my case, I know I'm weak at my bench, so I'm training the holy hell out of my triceps. I need to bring my triceps up massively. Look out, my triceps need to get bigger. Come on. I know that. And you guys know that too. So if you have a disadvantage at a lift, what do you need to do? You need to learn how to use your levers better. If you've got long arms, you need to get your triceps stronger. You need to learn how to arch. But mainly you got to get those triceps stronger, because that means you're going to suck at producing external force with anything you have to push with your arms. All right, you're going to be weaker. The bench press will tell you how you're going to perform in other endeavors. But if you got to push somebody or push something, well, you need to build the muscles then that will help you push more, because you have a lever disadvantage. So in that case, you need to build your triceps up. Work around your weak points. Don't make excuses. And let's come over. I'll say the same thing to the people who complain about the long femurs. And I feel for y'all. I know quite a few. You ever notice that the people who complain the most about long femurs and having a weak squat, who struggle with the squat, and I hope some of them are going to get feelings hurt, because I have friends who actually watch my channel with this problem. You ever notice they all squat narrow? Squat with a narrow. They try to squat with a narrow stance like I did right there, instead of going out wide. Well, I can tell you right now, if you have long femurs and you're trying to squat shoulder width, well, no shit. No shit, you can't squat. Well, what do you expect? You're taking your lever disadvantage and saying, let me see how much I can multiply that disadvantage. Let's see if I can make it twice as bad. All right, I have a disadvantage. Let me find a position that's going to put me in the worst possible position with my levers. Let me really make those levers work harder. You need to work on wide stance squatting. You know, you need to have your toes all the way to the edges of those bars down at the bottom. You see that? The feet? That's where your toes need to be. Okay, if you truly have long femurs, you need to learn to squat wide, real wide, so you take that moment art out. And people say, oh, but then I'm going to have to build my hips up more. My God, you mean you're going to have to build up muscles? You're going to have to build up muscles to lift more weight because of your levers? You see where I'm going with this? That's a cop-out. Just do it. Oh, no, you're going to have to build stronger hips. You're going to need a stronger VMO. You mean you're going to have to work. Just like those of us on the bench press, we have long arms. Right? I mean, that's such a weak excuse. No, you accept it. That's what I'm doing these days. I say, okay, I have long arms. Bench press is harder. What can I do to fix it? What can I do to fix it? Well, I'm going to have to find my best grip that lets me work around my levers. And I need to take the muscles that are going to be at the worst disadvantage due to my levers, and I need to build the holy hell out of them. I need to train them into the ground, and that's what I'm doing right now. Right? Tons of dips, board presses, JM presses, doing whatever it takes to beat those triceps up, because they're going to have to grow. But people have to stop making excuses for their weakness. Right? It's an excuse. It's an excuse. And if you want to get stronger, fix your weak links. Work around your levers. Okay? Don't just focus on what you're good at. Yeah, I focus on the deadlift a lot because I'm built to deadlift. I'm pretty good at it. Needs to be better, but it'll carry me a long way too. But that means that we have to work even harder at our weakest links. Right? Got to work harder at our weakest links. Because you are only as strong as your weakest link. And you know what? If you're weak at one big lift, you're going to be weak at other endeavors. It will carry over into other things. Because it means you got a weak link in the chain. And if you're weak at any lift, and it's a major lift, That will tell you a lot about what you need to work on as far as muscle balance, performance, everything. All right, guys, and that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.